Love is one of the most powerful forces in existence. It is the foundation of human connection, the very thing that binds people together and gives life meaning. But here's the problem. Many people are terrified of love. They are terrified of the vulnerability it requires, the responsibility it demands, and the way it exposes the deepest parts of the self. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you feel that God is opening someone's heart to you, someone who has been reluctant, hesitant, or even resistant to love, then understand this: there is something deeply significant happening here. People who are afraid to love are not weak. They are often the ones who have experienced the most pain, the most betrayal, and the deepest disappointment. Their reluctance is not a reflection of their lack of feeling. In fact, it is often the exact opposite. They feel so deeply that the mere idea of being hurt again is paralyzing. But when God is working in their heart, when He is gently dismantling their fears and reshaping their understanding of love, you will begin to see small yet profound changes. Maybe this person was once distant, but now they linger a little longer in conversation. Maybe they were once closed off, but now they begin to share fragments of their past. Maybe they were once defensive, but now they start seeking your presence, even if they don't fully understand why. These are not coincidences. These are signs of a heart being softened by divine intervention. But here's the crucial part. You must not rush this process. Love that is truly transformative, the kind of love that is rooted in God's wisdom, does not come through pressure or manipulation. It comes through patience, through the demonstration of unwavering character, through the ability to hold space for someone who is learning to trust again. The mistake most people make in situations like this is that they try to control the outcome. They demand certainty before the person is ready to give it. They push for clarity when the heart is still in transition. And in doing so, they sabotage the very thing God is trying to nurture. You must understand that when someone is scared to love, it is not just about you. It is about them facing their deepest fears. It is about them confronting their past wounds. It is about them reconciling the idea that love does not have to be synonymous with pain. And your role is not to fix them. Your role is to embody the kind of love that reflects patience, kindness, and security. Qualities that will help them feel safe enough to step forward on their own. But here's where your faith is tested. What if their fear causes them to retreat just when you think progress has been made? What if they question whether they are even capable of loving in the way that you deserve? This is where you must rely on God's guidance, because if He is truly working in their heart, the process will not fail. It may be slow, it may be uncertain, but it will not fail. God does not bring people into our lives by accident. Every connection has a purpose. Some are meant to teach us, some are meant to challenge us in ways we never imagined. But the one thing that remains constant is that love, when it is aligned with God's plan, will always move forward, even when fear tries to stand in its way. So, if you feel that God is opening someone's heart to you, but they are afraid, do not let your impatience ruin what He is building. Instead, let your actions reflect the very love they are learning to trust. Let your presence be the steady foundation they need to believe that love is not a threat but a gift. And most importantly, trust that when the time is right, their heart will no longer be ruled by fear, but by the undeniable certainty that love, true, unshaken, and God-ordained, was meant for them all along. Fear is a powerful force, one that shapes the way people interact with love and relationships. For many, the idea of love is not just about connection, joy, or companionship. It is about risk. It is about vulnerability. It is about stepping into something that has the power to heal, but also the power to wound. And for those who have experienced the sharp edge of heartbreak, the scars they carry often become the barriers that prevent them from embracing love again. These barriers are not always visible, but they exist in the way a person hesitates before opening up, in the way they keep a certain distance even when they desire closeness, in the way they sabotage relationships, not because they don't want love, but because they fear it. This fear does not appear out of nowhere. It is often rooted in experiences that have left a deep impact on the way a person sees relationships. Maybe they once trusted completely and were betrayed in ways they never expected. Maybe they gave their heart fully only to have it mishandled, ignored, or even broken beyond recognition. Maybe they watched love fail around them, seeing parents drift apart, witnessing toxic dynamics unfold, or hearing stories of loss and regret that convinced them love was something dangerous, something that could not be relied upon. And when someone internalizes these experiences, love stops being a source of comfort and starts becoming a source of anxiety. When fear takes hold in this way, it changes the way a person engages with love. They might long for connection, but struggle to believe that it will last. They might crave companionship, but hesitate to trust that someone's intentions are pure. They might feel drawn to someone deeply, but find themselves pulling back just as quickly, caught in an internal battle between desire and self-protection. And what's important to understand is that this fear is not a choice in the way most people think it is. It is not simply a matter of deciding to stop being afraid. It is a response that has been conditioned over time, reinforced by painful experiences and strengthened by the mind's attempt to protect itself from further harm. When God is opening someone's heart to love, this fear does not disappear overnight. The process is often slow, subtle, and filled with moments of progress followed by moments of hesitation. You might see someone begin to trust, to let their guard down, only for them to retreat again when they feel too exposed. You might witness them open up in ways they never have before, only to later overthink their own emotions and question whether they are making a mistake. This is the reality of what it means to love someone who is afraid, to understand that their reluctance is not a lack of interest, but a sign of how deeply they feel. People who are indifferent to love do not wrestle with fear in this way. It is the ones who care the most who struggle the most, because for them, love is not something casual or insignificant. It is something that carries weight, something that has the power to change their life for better or worse. And if their past experiences have convinced them that love is more likely to bring pain than joy, then their hesitation is not just about protecting themselves, it is about survival. But here's where faith becomes essential. Because when God is working in someone's heart, He is not just asking them to take a risk on love. He is asking them to rewrite the narrative they have believed for so long. He is asking them to trust in something that contradicts their past experiences. He is asking them to let go of the fears that have defined their relationships and step into a love that operates differently than what they have known. And this is not easy. It requires them to unlearn the lessons that pain has taught them. It requires them to dismantle the walls they have built for years. It requires them to surrender their control and believe that love is worth the risk. This is why patience is necessary when dealing with someone who is afraid to love. Because fear does not respond to force. It does not disappear because someone demands it to. It dissolves only when it is met with consistency, reassurance, and genuine care. A person who is scared to love needs to see that love is not just words, but actions. They need to experience a connection that does not punish them for their hesitation, but gives them the space to move forward at their own pace. They need to feel that they are not being pressured to love, but invited into a love that is safe, stable, and rooted in something deeper than just temporary emotion. It is easy to misinterpret fear as rejection, to assume that if someone is hesitant, they must not truly care. But in reality, fear often means the opposite, The deeper the feelings, the greater the fear. The more someone values a connection, the more they worry about losing it. And so they become hyper aware of every possibility that things might go wrong. They analyze every interaction, question every emotion, and struggle with the idea that love could be different from what they have known before. This internal battle is exhausting. It is why people who are afraid to love often send mixed signals. One moment they are present, engaged, and emotionally available. The next they withdraw, overthink, and create distance. It is not because they want to hurt the person they care about, but because they are still learning to trust their own feelings. They are still wrestling with the belief that love is something that can be good, something that can be stable, something that does not always lead to pain. So what does this mean for you if you find yourself connected to someone who is afraid? It means understanding that their journey is not about you proving your worth. It is about them learning to believe in love again. It is about them allowing themselves to hope for something different than what they have known. And while you cannot control their process, you can influence it by showing them a love that is patient, steady, and reassuring. This does not mean that you must wait indefinitely for someone who is unwilling to grow. But it does mean recognizing that healing takes time, that the person who is afraid today might be the person who loves deeply tomorrow once they have been given the space to move past their fears. It means realizing that true love is not just about passion, but about the willingness to navigate the difficult moments, the moments where fear speaks louder than hope. The moments where hesitation overshadows desire. The moments where trust is still being built. And above all, it means trusting that if God is truly working in someone's heart, they will not remain trapped in fear forever. Change will come. Growth will happen. And when the time is right, love will no longer be something to fear, but something they are ready to embrace fully. When God is opening someone's heart to you, the process does not happen in a dramatic or immediate way. It unfolds gradually through subtle signs and changes in their behavior. Many people expect love to be an instant revelation, a moment of certainty that erases all doubt. But human emotions do not work that way, especially for someone who is scared to love. Instead, their heart opens in phases, often without them even realizing it. Their mind may still hold on to old fears, but something deep inside them begins to shift, drawing them toward you despite their reservations. One of the first signs that this is happening is a change in the way they communicate with you. If someone has been hesitant about love, they may have kept conversations surface level, avoiding deeper topics that require emotional openness. But when their heart begins to soften, they start allowing themselves to share more of their thoughts, experiences, and vulnerabilities. They may not even realize why they suddenly feel safe enough to do so, but it happens because something within them is beginning to trust. You might notice them asking you questions about your past, your dreams, and your beliefs in a way they never did before. This is a sign that they are no longer just engaging with you on a casual level, but are beginning to consider you as someone who could hold a deeper place in their life. Another sign is the way they react to your presence. Someone who is afraid to love may have previously kept their distance, emotionally or even physically, as a way of protecting themselves. But when God is working in their heart, they start to linger a little longer in your presence. They find reasons to be around you, even if they don't fully understand why. They may not always verbalize their feelings, but their actions reveal them. You might notice that they remember small details about things you've told them, that they seek your advice on matters they would normally keep to themselves, or that they make an effort to share experiences with you. Even in moments of silence, their body language speaks volumes. They lean in when you talk. Their eyes search for yours in a crowded room, and they begin to mirror your actions without realizing it. This is because love is not just a decision. It is an instinct that pulls people toward what feels right, even when the mind is hesitant. Their heart is beginning to overrule their fears, showing them that they are safe with you. They may not yet be fully conscious of this shift, but it is happening nonetheless. And this is where patience becomes crucial. If you push for answers too soon, you might trigger their fear and cause them to retreat. But if you allow the process to unfold naturally, they will reach their own realization in time. Another important sign is how they respond to emotional moments. If someone has been guarded, they may have previously avoided deep emotional exchanges, changing the subject or shutting down when feelings became too intense. But when their heart starts to open, they no longer run from these moments. They begin to sit with their emotions, even when it feels uncomfortable. If they were once dismissive of love or relationships, you might notice that they start asking questions about what a healthy partnership looks like. They may begin to express their fears and insecurities in a way that invites you to understand them rather than push you away. This is not just about them opening up to you, it is about them coming to terms with their own emotions, learning to trust that love does not have to end in pain. Another key sign is in their actions when they are not around you. When God is working in someone's heart, He places you in their thoughts even when they are alone. You might notice that they start reaching out more often, checking in on you, sending messages just to see how you are doing. They begin to show up in small but meaningful ways, whether it's remembering your favorite coffee order or sharing something that reminded them of a conversation you had weeks ago. These actions are not random. They are signs that this person is no longer just thinking about themselves. They are considering you, your feelings, and your role in their life. Fear often creates a pattern of avoidance, but when that pattern starts to break, it is a clear indication that something deeper is happening. When someone begins to engage with you, even when it would be easier for them to retreat, it is a sign that their heart is shifting. They are beginning to step out of their old mindset and into a new understanding of what love can be. However, it is important to recognize that fear does not disappear overnight. There may still be moments of hesitation, times when they seem to pull back, just as you think things are moving forward. This is not a sign of rejection. It is part of their internal struggle. Their heart is telling them one thing, but their mind is still trying to protect them from possible pain. This is why consistency is key. If you react to their moments of hesitation with frustration or impatience, you reinforce their fears. But if you remain steady, showing them that you are not going anywhere just because they have doubts, they will begin to trust the connection more deeply. You must also pay attention to the way they respond to other relationships in their life. When someone is learning to love again, it does not only affect their connection with you, it transforms the way they interact with others as well. You may notice that they start engaging with family or friends in a more open way, that they are no longer as closed off as they once were. This is because love, when it truly begins to take root, does not stay confined to just one area of a person's life. It begins to expand, affecting their entire way of relating to the world. If someone is afraid of love, they often build walls in every direction, not just in romantic relationships. But when those walls start to come down, it is a sign that their heart is truly opening, not just to you, but to life itself. One of the most profound confirmations that God is working in someone's heart is when they begin to take steps toward healing. If someone who once avoided emotional discussions suddenly starts seeking understanding, reading about relationships, engaging in deeper self-reflection, or even pursuing therapy, it is a clear sign that they are preparing themselves to love in a healthier way. This does not happen randomly. It happens because something inside them is shifting, aligning them with a new way of thinking about love. Perhaps the most important sign of all is when they begin to express in their own way that they are grateful for you. It may not always be direct. It might come in small acknowledgments. In moments where they open up and say things like, "I don't usually talk about this with people," or "I don't know why, but I feel safe with you." These are not just words. They are glimpses into the way their heart is changing. They are admissions, whether conscious or not, that their fear is losing its hold. Understanding these signs requires patience, but it also requires faith. Because when God is working, the changes may not always be obvious at first, but they are happening. And if you watch closely, you will see them unfold in ways that confirm that this is not just a coincidence, it is a divine process in motion. When someone is scared to love, their heart operates in a state of conflict. On one hand, they may deeply desire connection, stability, and the kind of love that feels safe and fulfilling. On the other hand, their fears create barriers that prevent them from fully embracing that love. This conflict can make relationships difficult, not because they do not care, but because they do not yet know how to let themselves be loved without fear. If God is working in someone's heart to open them to love, there is an essential role that you play in their journey. Not by forcing their growth, but by embodying the very qualities that help them feel safe enough to step forward on their own. Patience is one of the most critical aspects of dealing with someone who is hesitant about love. Fear does not respond to pressure. It does not vanish simply because someone wants it to. If you attempt to force clarity, push them to commit before they are ready, or demand answers they are still figuring out, their natural reaction will be to retreat. This does not mean they do not care about you. It means that love is a risk they are still learning to take, and the more pressure they feel, the greater the risk appears. Fearful hearts do not need force. They need reassurance. They need to see over time that love is not something they have to protect themselves from. Consistency is another crucial element. Many people assume that if someone truly wants love, they will immediately respond with enthusiasm and certainty. But this is rarely the case for those who have been wounded in the past. If someone has learned to associate love with pain, abandonment, or betrayal, their instincts will tell them to be cautious. They will look for reasons to doubt, to question, to second guess whether they can trust what is in front of them. This does not mean they are rejecting you. It means they are testing whether the connection is real, whether it is stable enough to withstand their uncertainty. This is where your actions matter more than your words. Telling someone they can trust you is not enough. They must see through repeated experiences that you are consistent, that you do not disappear when things get complicated, that you are willing to meet them where they are without resentment. It is also important to recognize that their fear is not about you. One of the biggest mistakes people make in situations like this is taking the other person's hesitation personally. They assume that if someone is unsure, it must mean they are not interested or that they do not care enough. But fear does not work that way. Their hesitation is not about a lack of love. It is about a lack of belief that love can be safe. This is something that has been shaped by their past long before you entered the picture. Your role is not to take responsibility for their healing, but to be a presence that supports it. One of the ways you can do this is by allowing them space when they need it, while also remaining emotionally available. People who fear love often go through cycles of closeness and withdrawal. There will be moments when they feel safe enough to open up, and there will be moments when their fear convinces them to pull back. If you react to their withdrawal with anger or insecurity, you reinforce their fear that love leads to pain. But if you respond with patience and understanding, you show them that love does not have to be something that overwhelms or suffocates. It can be something that gives them room to process their emotions at their own pace. This does not mean you should accept mistreatment or allow someone's fear to dictate your own emotional well-being. There is a difference between supporting someone through their healing and allowing yourself to be dragged into their emotional turmoil. If someone's fear causes them to be inconsistent in a way that hurts you, you have every right to set boundaries. Love is not about sacrificing your own emotional health to prove your worth to someone else, But it is about recognizing that if someone is genuinely trying to work through their fear, they will need patience, not ultimatums. One of the most important things you can do for someone who is afraid to love is to model emotional security. Fearful hearts need stability. They need to see that love is not about chaos, uncertainty, or pain. If you respond to their fear with your own insecurity, constantly seeking validation, reacting emotionally to every moment of hesitation, or becoming anxious when they struggle, but if you remain grounded, if you continue to be steady even when they waver, they begin to internalize the idea that love can be a source of security rather than fear. This requires you to be self-aware about your own emotions. If their hesitation triggers your own insecurities, it is important to recognize that and address it within yourself. Loving someone who is afraid to love requires strength, not because you must prove anything to them, but because you must be able to offer them something different from what they have known. If they have spent years believing that love leads to pain, the only way they will believe otherwise is if they experience a love that proves them wrong. Encouragement is another vital aspect of your role. People who fear love often battle with self-doubt. They may not believe they are capable of being in a healthy relationship, or they may feel that they are too broken to be loved fully. You do not need to convince them otherwise with words alone. Your actions should reflect the truth that they are worthy of love. Celebrate their progress, no matter how small. If they open up about something personal, acknowledge their vulnerability instead of rushing past it. If they take a step forward in trusting you, recognize it for what it is. Evidence that their heart is shifting. At the same time, do not make the mistake of becoming the sole source of their healing. They must ultimately decide for themselves that love is worth the risk. You can support them, encourage them, and provide stability, but you cannot carry them to the finish line. If they are unwilling to work through their fears, if they remain stuck in the same patterns, despite your patience and effort, you must be willing to walk away. Love is not about waiting indefinitely for someone to change. It is about creating an environment where change is possible while also respecting your own worth. Above all, remember that your role is not to convince them to love you. Your role is to be a reflection of what healthy, secure love looks like if they are ready, if they are willing to trust the process that God is leading them through. They will respond in time. If they are not, no amount of effort on your part will change that. But if they do begin to open their heart, if they start to lean into the connection despite their fears, then you will have played a part in something deeply meaningful. You will have shown them that love is not something to fear, but something to embrace. And when they finally choose to step forward fully, it will not be because they were pressured into it, but because they came to see on their own that love, real, stable, and God-ordained, was worth the risk. When God is opening someone's heart to love, the final confirmation does not always come in grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Instead, it often reveals itself in the subtle but powerful ways a person begins to show up for the relationship. Someone who has been hesitant, who has battled fear and doubt, does not suddenly wake up one day with absolute certainty. Instead, their transformation happens through small intentional choices. Choices that signal they are no longer resisting love, but allowing it to take root in their life. One of the clearest signs that this shift is happening is their willingness to invest in the relationship in ways they never did before. Fearful hearts often avoid emotional investments because they are afraid of losing what they care about. But when someone begins to truly open up, they start prioritizing the connection rather than protecting themselves from potential pain. You will see it in their actions, how they begin to make time for you, how they include you in their world, and how they begin to speak about the future in ways that suggest they are making space for you in their life. Someone who is scared to love may have once kept their emotions tightly guarded, but as their heart opens, they will start to express their feelings in ways that feel genuine to them. This may not always come in the form of direct words like, I love you, or grand romantic statements. Instead, it often reveals itself through small but meaningful gestures, checking in on you when they know you are having a tough day, remembering small details about your conversations, or making an effort to be more present. When someone moves from hesitation to action, it is a strong indication that they are no longer just considering the possibility of love, but are stepping into it. Another important sign is that they begin to face their fears rather than run from them. People who fear love often create emotional barriers to protect themselves. They may avoid deep conversations, deflect when things become too serious, or withdraw when they feel too close to someone. But when God is working in their heart, they begin to challenge these patterns. They allow themselves to sit in the discomfort of vulnerability instead of escaping it. They begin to communicate more openly about their fears rather than letting them dictate their actions. This does not mean they no longer struggle with doubt. It means they are actively choosing to work through it rather than letting it control them. A person whose heart is opening will also show greater consistency in their actions. Fear creates inconsistency. Moments of closeness followed by withdrawal, excitement followed by hesitation. But when someone is truly stepping into love, they stop running. They begin to engage with more stability, showing up in ways that demonstrate their growing commitment. If they used to disappear when emotions ran high, they start staying in the conversation. If they once avoided making future plans, they begin to embrace the idea of building something lasting. Their words and actions begin to align, and the push and pull dynamic that once defined the relationship starts to fade. One of the most profound confirmations that God is leading someone toward love is their willingness to take responsibility for their own healing. No one can force another person to heal from their past wounds or overcome their fears. That decision must come from within. When someone begins to actively work on their emotional growth, whether through self-reflection, seeking advice, or being more mindful of their reactions, it is a sign that they are preparing themselves for love in a way they never have before. They are no longer just hoping things will be different. They are making the conscious effort to ensure they do not repeat the patterns that once held them back. A person whose heart is truly opening will also begin to express gratitude for the relationship. Instead of seeing love as something to fear, they begin to recognize it as something valuable, something they do not want to lose. They may not always articulate this directly, but you will see it in the way they treat you with more care, more attentiveness, and more awareness of how their actions affect you. They start making choices that prioritize not just their own comfort, but the health of the relationship as a whole. Perhaps the final and most undeniable confirmation is that they choose you, not just in words, but in the way they actively move toward you, despite their fears. They may still have moments of hesitation, but they no longer allow those moments to dictate their actions. They no longer let their doubts keep them from love. They begin to trust that what they feel is real, that it is worth the risk, and that God has placed you in their life for a reason. When someone's heart is truly opening, love is no longer something they are trying to escape. It becomes something they are learning to embrace. And when that happens, you will not have to question whether it is real. Their actions will tell you everything you need to know.